jury in this matter duly impaneled find the defendant Jacob Krinn not guilty of the offense of involuntary manslaughter. We, the jury in this matter duly impaneled, find the defendant Troy Henricksen not guilty of the offense of involuntary manslaughter.
Coming in just after 4 o'clock this afternoon, we continue to follow this breaking news. 2 men on trial for the death of Stone Foltz have been found not guilty on most of the serious charges.
Today's verdict comes about 8 hours after the jury first started its deliberations. Ariel Onstad's been in the courtroom since the trial began and joins us now live from the Wood County Courthouse with the full wrap of this. Ariel.
Well, Jeff, Melissa, you know, it's been said from both sides that there are no winners, no matter what the outcome would have been. On one hand, you have a family grieving the loss of their son. On the other side, you have 2 men trying to salvage their reputations. But I think in the end, both sides are satisfied with the outcome and the fact that they feel to some extent justice has been done. Now, when we look at this just hours ago, as we waited in the courtroom for that verdict, it was incredibly tense as both sides waited with bated breath. You know, you have the Foltz family sitting on the front row behind the prosecution, holding hands, waiting to see what would happen. And on the other side, you have Troy Henricksen and Jacob Krinn's family members sitting close together, waiting to see what the fate of their loved ones would be. The reason I say both sides were satisfied is because at the end of the day, from a defense perspective, they've said that both Troy Henricksen and Jacob Krinn are not guilty. And not guilty, not being just the basic, but that they are innocent of what the state brought against them, saying at the end of the day, it was Stone Foltz's choice to drink. This trial was really just incredibly tough for both sides to listen to, especially excruciating for the Foltzes, who saw final videos and photos of their son's last moments. Now, the prosecution does believe, as does the Foltz family, that this sends a very clear message about hazing. One of the things that the Foltzes family attorney was telling me is that the defendants were charged and convicted of misdemeanor hazing offenses, right? So misdemeanor hazing as well as misdemeanor underage drinking laws. Those were 2 of the misdemeanor convictions. But had this case been prosecuted a little differently in terms of Collins law, this could have looked a lot differently. Hazing is now a felony in the state of Ohio. Take a listen to what Rex Elliott, the family's attorney, was just saying an hour ago.
If the law had been enacted and the message had gotten out there that hazing is now a felony, a serious felony that carries years in prison, these kids may not have held that Big Little event the night of March 4th, 2021.
Now, Collins law did pass last summer. Of course, we know that the case in Stone Foltz's death was brought in March of last year, so just a few months earlier when all of this was happening. And ultimately, the Foltz family hopes that this sends a clear message about hazing and the future of this. But Jeff, Melissa, you know, just incredible moments after 2 weeks of court. We heard from more than 23 or roughly 23 witnesses from the state, the defense calling no witnesses. And at the end, we now have a resolution.
Ariel, talk a little bit about some of the emotion coming out of the courtroom after the verdicts. And did either side say anything about, well, I would have done this differently or I would have done that differently?
Well, Jeff, you know, it's pretty incredible because as I was leaving the courtroom, coming down to get ready for my 5 o'clock live shot, I ran into Paul Dobson, the chief prosecutor on this case, and he was becoming very emotional, choking up as he was describing the long hours he's put into this case, working with the Foltz family. He felt that this was a mission for justice, and he says at the end of the day, there's nothing his office would have done differently. He believes that they gave this their best fight, and at the end, they got the charges they wanted in terms of hazing, showing that what happened to Stone Foltz was a result of that. From the defense side, I know that they are grateful as they feel that innocent men are not being prosecuted for something they didn't commit, saying at the end of the day, there was no evidence showing that Stone Foltz was compelled to drink, and they feel that justice has been served as well.
Ariel, I know the Foltz family has been very outspoken about putting an end to hazing, not just here, but across the country. So what do you think is next for them after this?
Well, you know, one of the things that we heard from Rex Elliott today was this idea that the Foltz family has a lot of plans in the works when it comes to fighting on behalf of their son. They want to put an end to hazing across college campuses nationwide. Rex Elliott even saying that if college fraternities and sororities can't exist without hazing, then they should not exist at all. He was saying that at the end of the day, I think a lot of people see that both Troy Henricksen and Jacob Krinn are two men within a larger system created by adults on the national fraternity level and on a university level that allow these things to continue to happen on college campuses nationwide. They say their fight is not over and they are going to continue to fight the good fight to make sure no other child loses their life, no other person loses their life due to hazing.
Ariel Onstadt reporting live. Thanks so much for your coverage during this past 2 weeks. We certainly appreciate all that work, and we've got it covered for you online to look at our past stories. Be sure to check out what we've posted at WTOL.com, our WTOL 11 News app, and social media.